So this video is chapter 5, problem 34 from your textbook. And in this one, we will be looking at activity-based costing. Hopefully you've watched the introductory video and you've read through the problem so that we can just jump right in and work through these. These are quite long problems, and I know a long video is not a good idea. So that's why I gave you the problems ahead of time to read through and be familiar with the content before we jump into the video. So if you haven't done that, please stop the video and go read the problem. It's posted in the module. It's chapter 5 video lecture. It's a Word document and you can read through that. So we're given all of the information and then we're asked to allocate the overhead cost to each activity cost pool and to calculate the activity rate for each pool. And as I told you in the introductory, what we're doing here is basically trying to take all of our overhead and allocate that to our products based on activities. And so in allocating the activity for each pool, we have to have certain information figured out already. So I'm going to start with our activity cost pools, which is already defined for us in the problem, and it is our direct labor support. I'm going to abbreviate these because it's spelled out for you in the problem: order processing, design support, and other. So these are our activities. As I mentioned in the introductory video, that's one of the first things you have to do is define that. And then they tell us that we have to have an activity measure and then a total budgeted activity for the year. So we have the activity driver. I'm actually going to skip over here. In other words, what is driving up the cost? What have we determined? And in this one, it's 30,000 direct manufacturing labor hours. And then it's 500 orders. Again, this is coming straight from the problem. This isn't anything I'm calculating. And then 2,490 design hours. That's what's driving up our design cost. That has been determined before we started this process. And then 30,000 same direct manufacturing labor hours. So there's our drivers as defined in the problem. Okay, so this one, in order to get this number, it's not given to us, but we're given some information so that we can calculate this. And this is very real life in that you're working in the accounting, managerial accounting, management, and you're trying to do activity-based costing, and you've gathered this information, you've talked to the production areas, and you've said what drives up your overhead cost, and now you're trying to find the overhead. So in this one, we kind of have a two-tiered approach that we have to figure out what cost are we associating with these four activities. So I'm going to copy these over here. Oh, that didn't work the way I wanted it to. I didn't do special paste. I'm just going to type these in real quick. Probably be faster. Another. Okay, and then we're told in the problem that in our manufacturing overhead, if you see it up there at the top, you've got wages and salaries, depreciation, rent, other, and then total. So what we've got to do from this, we've got wages, depreciation, we've got to separate that out into the activities. Okay, so make sure you see what I'm looking at. In fact, what I'm going to do over here is put the total. We've got 480,000, we've got 60,000, we've got 120,000, and we've got 240,000. So my total manufacturing overhead as given to me is $900,000. So we're not told, this is all we're given. Wages of the 900,000, wages are this much, depreciation is this much, rent is this much, other is this much. But we need it by activity. So then what we're given, also in the problem, down below, it says that we have an estimation of the distribution of the overhead cost. So for wages and salary, this $480,000, they have told us that 40% is direct manufacturing labor support. So we're just going to take that number times 40%. Again, this is given to you in the problem. 25% of depreciation is allocated to this department. 30% of rent, or I'm sorry, not department, activity. I forgot my times. And then other, we're told that for direct manufacturing labor support, 20%. So if I sum these, I wanted to do one first to show you. I have $291,000. So what I'm doing here is I'm saying, okay, of this $900,000 total overhead, $291,000 is allocated to this activity based on the percentages given to me in the problem. So I'm going to do the same thing for order, design, and other. And again, I'm just pulling these percentages from the problem. This isn't anything that I'm calculating. And after I do one more, I'm going to stop and finish this out so you don't have to watch me do all these calculations, but I wanted you to see at least two. And then again, we're going to sum this. And these are the numbers we're looking for. And so what over here, I need to know how much overhead is for direct manufacturing labor support. This is the number we've calculated. How much is it for this activity? That's the number we calculated. And then I'm going to go ahead and do design and other based on the same information given to me in the problem. Okay, so I finished out the calculations. And again, this is what we're looking for. We're trying to figure out how much overhead does each activity consume. So we've moved that over here. And then I'm going to continue to keep moving this over. And so now we can come up with our activity rate. So for this, we take our activity overhead cost divided by our estimated driver, and it's going to be $9.70 per direct labor hour. And then if I do for each of these, so this will be $4.56 per order, $100 per design hour, $4.40 per direct manufacturing labor hour. So that's what we mean when we say calculate the activity rate for each pull. So we've done that. That's part one. Now it asks us to determine the cost of order number 277100. And what we know about that is we have direct materials, we have direct labor, we have each activity. So we have direct labor support, we have order processing, we have design support, and we have other. These four are just my activities that I calculated up here. And we are given direct materials, $4,550. That's given to us in the problem. We are told that direct labor is 80 direct manufacturing labor hours, and we are given the direct labor rate up in the very first part of the problem as $20, and so that's going to be 80 hours times $20 per hour. And I'm going to go ahead and put this right here, and you'll see why in just a minute. Okay, and then my direct labor support. So I go back up to my rate and I say, okay, direct labor support is allocated to the job at $9.70 per direct labor hour. So that's going to be $9.70 times 80 because that's how many direct labor hours we had. And then I see my order processing is based on the number of orders, and this is one order, so 1 times 456. And then I see my design support is based on design hours, and so I've got to figure out what my design hours are. And where is that information at? It's given to us in the problem. $11.75 hours for a total of 1,410 design. It estimates it will do 180 simple designs, which will take 6 hours for a total of 1,080 design hours. Okay, and then it tells us that 3 products, okay, I'm on the order information right above required. It says there are 4 different metal products. 3 products require a complex design and 1 requires a simple design. Now, this is based on design hours, and so we've got to come up with how many hours that is. And then it tells us up in the problem that a complex design is 11.75 hours, and we know there's one of those. I'm going to have to use a lot of parentheses here. Plus, then it tells us that a simple design takes 6 hours, and the problem tells us that there are one simple design. 6 hours, and this one is actually 3. I read that backwards. The complex, there's 3. I think I have all my parentheses right, okay? And then other is based on direct labor hours also, and so that's going to be that activity rate times 80 hours. And then I will sum all of these up, and that will give me my job cost. And that's how we use activity-based costing. Then in number 3, it says, how does activity-based costing enhance Marshall's ability to price its orders? Suppose Marshall used a simple costing system to allocate all overhead. How might this have affected Marshall's pricing decision? Well, if he had done one, and you can read through the answer, I gave this to you, but if he had done one, he may have had some overpriced or underpriced orders, and we definitely don't want that to happen. And then in number 4, it says, when designing activity-based costing, Marshall uses time-driven activity-based costing design. What does this approach allow Marshall to do? How would the cost have been different if Marshall had used the number of customer designs rather than the number of customer design hours? And we can see that there's simple and there's complex, and so that calculation is also given to you in the solution. But mainly what I wanted you to see is the process of how we come up with the job order cost, which is what we did right here, based on activity-based costing.